My son chose his wife's birthday over my funeral. You won't believe his heartwarming request. Bill Thompson lay frail and silent, cheeks sunken, and skin as pale as the clouds that drifted above the small Midwestern town he loved. Surrounded by family and friends, the barber who had shaped both hair and lives for 65 years was barely keeping the fierce spirit alive. Laughter, heartwarming tales of his heroic past, and the familiar scent of hair pomade mingled with the bittersweet air of impending loss. Everyone in town felt his absence creeping in, yet the buzz of preparations for his son Jake's wife Sarah's first birthday celebration swiftly filled the streets, creating a whirlwind of joyful chaos that stood in stark contrast to Bill's final days. Jake, eyes heavy with worry, couldn't shake the feeling knotting his stomach. Here he stood in a tug-of-war, his father's life slipping away on one side and his wife's joy on the other. A milestone overshadowed by grief. How could he possibly celebrate Sarah without betraying the man who meant everything to him? It felt impossible. Was he selfish for wanting to honor his wife? The days melded together, the townsfolk coming and going, sharing stories that made Jake cry, while feeling an urgency to plan a fabulous celebration that wouldn't disappoint Sarah. Let us think of how much he cared, Jake whispered, guilt clinging to him like a second skin. The townsfolk rallied around Bill's side, but a phone call from Sarah sent a fresh wave of doubt knocking at his heart. There was a hint of desperation in her voice, excitement to share their lives with family traveling from out of state. Could Jake really miss this pivotal moment? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Amid the swirling emotions, an unexpected idea sparked in Jake's heart. Why not merge Sarah's birthday celebration with Bill's farewell? We could honor Dad while celebrating Sarah, he said to the room. A mix of disbelief and admiration painted across everyone's faces. It was a bold request, blending joy and sorrow like two rivers intertwining. Some thought it a sacrilege, while others embraced the profound nature of each event. What better way to weave his father's legacy into their lives than to acknowledge both love and loss in one sweeping gesture? As the community's whispers simmered into acceptance, they gathered decorations in bright colors reminiscent of the warmth Bill brought into their lives. During the chaos, Jake stumbled upon an old letter from his father, a letter filled with love, advice, and dreams for his son's future. Tears glistened as he read the words that poured out like sunlight after rain, celebrating life as fiercely as the thunder of sorrow rumbled in their hearts. That day would intertwine laughter and tears, an unforgettable testament to the challenges of life and the beauty of love. As guests began to arrive, clinking glasses and exchanging stories, Jake stood at the edge of both festivities, heart racing. How could he do justice to his father's influence while honoring Sarah's wish? With the weight of legacy pressing on him, he realized that perhaps this very blend of moments was the essence of family, life, and love itself. Just as he took the stage to speak, he felt the room shift, a charged atmosphere brimming with anticipation. Jake paused, the air filled with a question that hung like a heavy mist. How could he honor both his father and his wife, struggling to find the words that would weave both celebration and farewell into one poignant moment? Jake stood at the podium, palms sweating and heart pounding like a drum. Faces blurred in the crowd, a mixture of friends and family, all gazing at him with hope and affection. The room held a breath, waiting for him to speak, to bridge the delicate line between joy and sorrow. Thank you all for being here today, he started, voice trembling. We're here to celebrate two very important people, my father, Bill, and my wife, Sarah. A lump lodged deep in his throat. He glanced at Sarah, who sat sparkling in her birthday crown. Radiant excitement mingled with a hint of sadness in her eyes. She had spent the morning decorating the hall in bright colors, the laughter of children weaving in and out as they played. It was a beautiful mess, a reminder that life continues, even when it hurts. I want to share a story about my dad, Jake continued, his words growing stronger. He always said that life is too short to be anything but happy. He believed in love, a love that is fierce enough to light our darkest times. And that's what today is about. The room was quiet, except for the faint sniffles that echoed his sentiment. He saw old friends nodding in agreement, some holding hands, offering silent support. In the spirit of Dad, I thought, today we could celebrate the love Sarah brings into my life. He took a deep breath and met Sarah's gaze, hoping to convey the mix of emotions swirling in his heart. In this moment, I see how we can honor my dad while making new memories with Sarah. With each passing word, Jake felt lighter, freed from the weight of guilt that had dragged him down. So, let us celebrate with laughter. Let us have joy. Let us remember everything my father taught us about love and how important it is to embrace every moment together. Cheers erupted as clinking glasses filled the air. The room transformed, laughter mixing with tears as Jake invited everyone to share a favorite memory, an unforgettable moment spent with Bill, stories that would help keep him alive in their hearts. As tales swept through the crowd, Jake spotted Maggie, an elderly woman who had been one of his father's first customers. With her eyes glistening, she spoke of how Bill had been like a second father, teaching her son to shave. The warmth in her words illuminated the room more than any string of lights could. With each story shared, a knot in Jake's heart began to unravel. He could feel Bill's presence beside him, an approving smile reflecting in the twinkle lights. It didn't overshadow Sarah, it honored her. It celebrated the life that had shaped all of them. Later, as the sun dipped low, coloring the sky in shades of crimson and gold, Jake announced the grand surprise. A video montage dedicated to Bill, showing moments of his life woven with snippets of family gatherings, laughter shared, and love expressed. As the video played, Jake tightened his hold on Sarah's hand, staring at her glowing face. This was it, the fusion of two lives and two loves. Near the end of the montage, a short clip of Bill's voice rang out. "Love fiercely, my boy," he said, his face lighting up in the old photos. "Don't let sorrow dim your love." As the applause faded and the screen went black, Jake turned to Sarah, who was wiping tears of joy. "I wanted to capture everything," he whispered. "You don't have to feel guilty about celebrating today." She smiled, a mix of gratitude and understanding etched across her face. "I know, Jake. I really needed this, and so did you." As guests gathered for cake, the bittersweet feeling lingered, but it was laced with hope. Jake understood now that love is never divided. It expands, evolves, and continues to shine, even in the face of loss. But just as they prepared to cut the cake, an unexpected visitor walked through the door, a figure from the past, someone who hadn't been seen in years, bringing a whirlwind of memories and questions that could change everything. Jake's heart raced at the possibilities unfolding. Who could it be? The door swung open, slowly revealing a figure that made Jake's stomach drop. It was Carol, his estranged mother. The last time he had seen her, anger and hurt hung heavy in the air between them. They hadn't spoken since the family fracture years ago. The chatter in the room quieted, a ripple of surprise sweeping through the crowd. Jake's mind raced. A flood of memories filled his thoughts. How had she found him? "Hey, Jake," her voice was small, almost pleading. All eyes in the room shifted between mother and son, a tightrope formed from unspoken words. Jake stood frozen, trapped between ill-timed emotions. For a moment, he actually considered stepping closer. Then he saw Sarah, her eyes darting between him and Carol, worry etched on her face. "Mom," he finally managed, the word feeling foreign on his tongue. "What are you doing here?" I heard about the celebration." Carol searched for the right words, but they stumbled, falling into silence. "I wanted to come and support you." Jake clenched his jaw. Even though he felt the heat of anger rising, he felt the twinge of compassion too. After all these years, a mother's instinct remained deep within him, a bond that couldn't be entirely severed, no matter how painful. "Support?" he echoed, his voice filled with incredulity. "You chose to show up today, during Sarah's birthday, after all this time? Just to support?" Her expression turned hurt. "I know I haven't been the best mother, and I know I hurt you. But I came here to apologize. I've thought about you every day." Behind him, the guests murmured softly, curious to see what would unfold. The warmth of celebration faded, replaced by a knot of tension. Jake felt the ground shifting beneath him, the connection to his past nagging at him, taunting him. "Mom, why now?" he asked, struggling to keep his voice steady. "Why didn't you reach out before? This isn't how it works." "I was scared," she admitted, tears pooling in her eyes. "I didn't know how to face you after everything. After your father passed, I thought you needed space." Space. It was more than that. Years of silence echoed in his mind. But then he glanced at Sarah, at the way she stood there, silently supporting him. He remembered her laughter filling the empty spaces of the past few years. "Jake, maybe she wants to make things right," Sarah said, her voice a gentle nudge against the storm brewing inside him. Yet the turmoil inside felt like a storm threatening to break. Could he even consider forgiveness? What if he opened that door, only to have it slammed shut again? A piece of him wanted to embrace this moment, to find closure for both their sakes. Slowly, he turned back to his mother, his pulse quickening. "What do you really want, Carol? What do you expect from today?" With determination, she stepped closer, her gaze intent. "I want you to know I'm sorry, but more than that, I want to be part of your life again. I want to meet Sarah properly. I want to be there for you, for both of you." Jake could feel the weight of the room pressing in, all eyes watching the unpredictable course of what would happen next. He inhaled, summoning everything within him to choose carefully. Could this be the second chance he never expected? The chance to bridge the gap that had grown too wide, one he feared might already be beyond repair? As silence drew across the room, every heart held its breath, his mother, Sarah, and the guests, all waiting for his choice. Could he take the leap into that unknown, where hurt and hope could coexist, and perhaps even heal? But just as he opened his mouth to respond, the phone in his pocket buzzed sharply, breaking the tension. It was a message that hinted at something much deeper and more confusing than he could have imagined. Looking down, dread began to filter through him, as he realized this was only the beginning. Jake felt the weight of the crowd's gaze grow heavier as he glanced at his phone. The bright screen seemed to mock him, the words pulsating like a heartbeat. He couldn't focus. His heart raced, a chaotic rhythm that mingled with the tension in the air. What if the message changed everything? He glanced at Carol, her face a mixture of hope and anxiety. Part of him wanted to scream at her, to unleash the years of frustration that had built up. But then there was Sarah, standing nearby, her expression urging him not to lose himself in the past. Taking a deep breath, Jake put his phone back in his pocket and returned his focus to Carol. "What do you want from me, Mom?" he pressed, anger bubbling under his skin. "You're asking for a lot after so long. What makes you think I'd even consider it?" "Because I know I've been wrong," she replied, her voice steady despite the tears pooling in her eyes. "I've done nothing but push you away, and I want to change that. I want to try to really be a mother this time." The sincerity in her voice struck him, yet disbelief held him captive. Could she really change? Could he really believe her? His mind drifted to the times he longed for her guidance, her presence during those dark days after his father died. But every time he reached out, there was silence. "Jake, think about it," Sarah whispered, stepping closer. "Everyone deserves a chance to make things right, don't they?" He could see the genuine hope in her eyes. It was a small spark that flickered in his chest, igniting the possibilities within him. Maybe, just maybe, there was a sliver of redemption waiting. The thought both terrified and intrigued him. "All right," he said slowly, still running the words through his mind. "If we do this, it won't be easy. I can't promise I'll forgive you right away. It takes time, and I need to know you're serious." Carol nodded, her relief palpable. "I understand. I'm willing to do whatever it takes." Before he could process it, Sarah slipped her hand into his, squeezing it tight. The warmth spread through him, giving him strength. It was solid and grounding, a stark contrast to the emotional chaos swirling around him. But as the crowd began to murmur again, a disturbing thought struck him. Could Carol truly start to mend their broken family? What if she would hurt him again? What if he let this new hope take root only to have it shattered? Suddenly, his phone buzzed again, and this time, the urgency in the vibration set off alarms inside his head. Slowly, warily, he pulled it out. It was a message from his sister, one he hadn't spoken to in years. The words came fast, and as he read them, dread washed over him. "Jake, you need to come home. It's about Mom." The room blurred around him, the laughter and chatter fading. Shadows crept in, and his stomach twisted. What was this all about? He felt Sarah's hold tightened as she sensed his distress. The warmth now mingled with anxiety. "What is it?" she asked softly, concern dancing in her eyes. In that moment, everything shifted. The potential reunion, the fragile hopes of healing, they all felt tenuous suddenly, as if teetering on the brink of another storm. "Something's not right," he said, a new resolve building within him. He had to find out what the message meant. But before he could voice his thoughts, the reality of the moment crashed down on him like a wave. Now, standing at the crossroads of his past and present, Jake had to make a choice. Live in this uncertain moment and embrace this fragile new beginning with Carol, or plunge back into a past that could hold secrets he wasn't ready to face. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about family, about legacy, and the truth lurking just below the surface. His breath caught in his throat, each heartbeat louder than before. What was hidden in the shadows? And how would it shape his next steps? Jake's heart raced as he stared at the screen, letting the words from his sister sink in. "It's about Mom." The weight of uncertainty pressed heavy against his chest, almost suffocating. He could feel the cold fingers of dread curling around his spine. "What does it mean?" Sarah's voice broke the spell. Her eyes searched his, wide with concern, but he didn't have an answer. The laughter from the crowd around them felt distant and now, almost inappropriate. It was as if they were living in a different world from the joy of that moment. "I don't know," he managed, glancing at Carol. "But something is happening. Something that may change everything." "Then we should go," Sarah urged, squeezing his hand harder. "You can't ignore this." Jake felt pulled in different directions. Part of him wanted to remain, to explore these new beginnings with Carol, to see if the hope they had sparked could actually grow into something real. The other part, the one that remembered the pain of their family's fracture, screamed to run. But running wouldn't solve anything. Taking a deep breath, he nodded. "Yeah, we need to go." With that decision, everything felt charged. He glanced at Carol, who appeared both relieved and nervous. "Can you handle this?" he asked, his voice steadying. "If I go home, it might bring up a lot of feelings." She wiped stray tears from her face and nodded. "Whatever it is, just know I'm here for you, Jake." He turned to Sarah, feeling the fierce determination radiating off her. She was his anchor in this storm, grounding him when everything seemed to twist and turn. "Let us go," he said, starting toward the exit. The crowd parted, their energy fading into the background as his focus narrowed. The outside world felt cold and alive. It was as much a part of him as the memories haunting his past. As they got into the car, silence descended, wrapping around them tightly. Jake felt every bump in the road, as if they were symbolic of the obstacles ahead. He could feel Sarah's warmth beside him, a quiet assurance that somehow everything would be okay. But deep down, a frantic voice reminded him that darkness often lingered just around the edge of hope. What had his mother done this time? Why was his sister so urgent? "Do you know what is going on?" Sarah asked, breaking the silence with genuine curiosity. "No." Jake shook his head as he navigated the road. "But it can't be good. It's never good news with her." He stole a glance at her. "But maybe it's a chance for closure?" Or understanding. He felt his heart pound with uncertainty, a mix of hope and fear. Could this be the moment when hidden truths began to unravel? Or was he just setting himself up for more heartbreak? With every mile they drove, that tight knot of dread wound around him tighter. The world outside blurred, and Jake's mind raced. What if he discovered something that shattered his hopes? Or worse, what if he didn't discover anything at all? As they approached his childhood home, the familiar silhouettes of trees loomed like guardians, both comforting and foreboding. Jake parked in the driveway and sat for a moment, his hands gripping the steering wheel. He could see the windows glowing with a faint light, a beacon of the past he had tried to escape. "Are you ready?" Sarah's voice was soft, yet powerful. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he took a deep breath, held it, then slowly released it. The air outside was chilly but invigorating, the kind that stings the lungs, reminding him he was alive. They were here now, facing what could be the turning point of their lives. But what awaited inside the house could very well shift everything he thought he knew. With a nod, they exited the car. Jake's stomach tightened. This was it. Stepping into the unknown. No turning back now. As he reached for the door, a thought flashed through his mind. What truth was waiting to greet him on the other side? And was he ready to finally confront his family's secrets? The door creaked open, a sound that felt both familiar and alien. Jake stepped inside, the musty air wrapping around him like a dusty blanket. The living room was dimly lit, echoes of laughter from his childhood lingering in the corners, haunting him. "Mom." His voice cracked, breaking the silence that draped over the house. He glanced at Sarah, whose eyes mirrored his uncertainty. It was as if the years had condensed into this singular moment, loaded with past regrets and unspoken words. They walked further in, the wooden floorboards creaking under their feet. Every step seemed to amplify the tension in the air. Jake's heart pounded against his ribcage like a caged bird desperate for freedom. "Jake?" The voice, soft, almost fragile, came from the kitchen. His mother's silhouette appeared in the doorway. She looked older, her face etched with lines that told stories he'd never been privy to. Mommy didn't know what to say. The rush of emotions choked him: anger, fear, confusion. But beneath that overwhelmed surge, a flicker of concern took root. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice rising in volume, yet dripping with worry. She stepped forward, her gaze darting between Jake and Sarah, searching for answers. "We got your message," Sarah interjected, trying to bridge the growing chasm of silence. "What is happening?" His mother's expression shifted, a mask of vulnerability flashing across her face. "I wasn't sure if you'd come," she admitted. "I didn't want to worry you. But I really need to talk." Jake swallowed hard, recognizing the urgency in her tone. "What is going on?" "Please, sit down," she urged, gesturing toward the worn-out sofa. It felt different now, burdened by the weight of unshared feelings, of conversations that had remained unsaid for too long. They took their seats, and the air seemed to thicken. His mother took a deep breath, exhaling slowly. "I've been diagnosed with something serious," her voice cracked, and for a moment, it seemed like the room itself held its breath. Jake's heart sank. This was the dreaded conversation he had imagined but never wanted. "What do you mean serious?" He could barely find his own voice. The words came out choked and fragmented. "I have cancer, Jake. Stage 3. The room spun as her words sank in. A part of him wanted to scream, to unleash all the hurt and resentment he had harbored against her over the years. That part was swallowed by a wave of anguish, raw and all-consuming. He had spent so long trying to escape this family, only to have it travel back into his life in the most devastating way possible. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" Sarah's voice wavered. "We could have helped you. I didn't want to burden you. I thought." She hesitated, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I thought you'd leave." Jake felt his walls begin to crumble. "Mom, we're here for you. Always." Tears streamed down her cheeks, carving paths through the years of silence. "I was scared," she whispered, her voice filled with regret. "Scared you wouldn't care, that you'd think I did this to myself. Maybe if you had been there for us too." His voice trembled with emotion. It was too much, too soon, but the words slipped past his defenses, unfiltered. "I know I haven't been the best mother, but I'm here now, and I want to make things right." Her desperate plea echoed in the room, colliding with the memories of the past that lingered like ghosts. Jake looked at Sarah, who was nodding ever so slightly, urging him to embrace this moment of vulnerability. This was a fragility he hadn't anticipated, a chance for healing. "Can we start over?" he whispered, feeling the weight of what he was asking. It hung between them, ripe with possibility, a chance to connect, to finally understand each other. His mother's eyes widened, combining shock with hope. "Yes, please." Jake felt himself cracking open, the heaviness in his chest lifting, if only a little. There was still so much left unsaid, so many feelings buried. But as the warmth of tentative forgiveness filled the room, a darker thought threaded back in. Would they be able to navigate this roller coaster of emotions while the clock ticked ominously? And if they began this journey, where would it ultimately lead? Jake felt a shiver run down his spine as his mother's words hung in the air, heavy and unyielding. The silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken thoughts. He tore his gaze from her, focusing on the coffee table cluttered with old magazines and framed photos. Each image reflected a moment from a time when life felt simpler, before everything started to unravel. "Mom," he began, searching for the right words, "this is a lot to take in. How long do you have?" She looked at him, a flicker of sadness crossing her face. "They can't be sure. They're suggesting treatment, but I don't know how it will all go." Jake's heart clenched. The only certainty was uncertainty, and it terrified him. He felt Sarah's hand gently squeeze his, and that touch acted as a lifeline. They had both been through so much, and though pain was not new to them, this felt like a tidal wave they had never expected. "What about treatment?" Sarah asked, her voice soft but steady. "Have you thought about options?" "I have," his mother replied, wiping her tears. "But I don't want to go through my life opening old wounds. I don't want to be a burden." "Mom, you could never be a burden," Jake said fiercely, meeting her gaze. "You're my mother. I'm trying to understand. We need to talk about everything past, present everything." "You're right," his mother whispered, her voice trembling. "But the pain of the past, I worry it'll drown out the time we have left." A sense of urgency wafted through the room, filling the spaces where silence once stood. Jake nodded slowly. "Maybe it's time to face it. If we're starting over, can we be honest?" Her expression softened, measuring his words. "I think that would honestly help us both." Jake felt like he was taking a leap of faith, relying on what little he understood about forgiveness and hope. "Can we talk about why you left? Why it felt like you disappeared?" "That's a conversation I've dreaded for too long," she admitted, her hands trembling slightly in her lap. "I didn't know how to handle my own feelings, let alone yours." Tension began to give way to the potential for intimacy. Courage built within Jake, spurred on by Sarah's unwavering support. Looking deep into his mother's eyes, he said, "We can't change what happened, but we can embrace the time we have now." With a choked sob, his mother nodded. "You're right, and I regret so much of what I've done. I wanted to protect you, but it started to feel like I was running away." "From us?" Jake breathed, the years of hurt bubbling to the surface. "Yes, I was afraid of my failures. You deserved better," she swallowed hard, tears spilling freely now. "But I needed to be here with you. I want to be a better mother." Jake wiped away his own tears, feeling the walls of his heart begin to thaw. Their conversation, heavy and aching, transformed into something else, an avenue for healing, a way to build a bridge, however fragile. "I don't know how this is going to change us," Sarah said quietly, as if reading Jake's mind. "But I think it's a start." It was true. They were on the edge of something profound, holding the pieces of their shattered relationship in their hands. Jake still felt that gnawing urgency. Time was slipping through their fingers like sand, but for the first time, he also felt the glimmer of hope. But just as the weight of unspoken burdens began to lift, a penetrating silence fell upon them again. "Jake," his mother said, her voice barely above a whisper, "what if I don't make it through this? What happens then?" The question hung heavy in the room, a stark reminder of their harsh reality. Jake's heart raced, and he braced himself for the confrontation with the truth they had both been avoiding. "How can I love you when you're gone?" The words came out raw, a vulnerability he and T intended to share. But even as he spoke, he realized it was the connection he had always yearned for, an acknowledgement of fragility intertwined with love. Would facing the unknown together bring them closer, or was this only the beginning of a new wave of heartache? Jake's mind raced as he processed his mother's chilling question. The air felt thick, almost suffocating, and he resisted the urge to flee from the moment. He leaned forward, desperately wanting to find the words that would ease this unbearable tension. His gaze flickered to Sarah, who nodded encouragingly, grounding him in the chaos. "Mom, he stuttered, searching for clarity. "I can't even think about that now. Let us focus on today. On you. Please." She looked vulnerable, her eyes glistening like shards of glass, reflecting the weight of everything they had lost and perhaps could still salvage. "But it's hard not to think about it. I'm scared, Jake. Of leaving you. Of what that would mean for you." "Everyone deals with fear differently," he replied softly. "It's okay to be scared, but let us stay in this moment right here, right now. We're talking, and that matters." His mother sucked in a shaky breath, attempting to reassemble herself. Jake noticed every tiny detail, the way her fingers twisted the fabric of her sweater, the faint tremor in her voice, and how vulnerability wrapped around them like an invisible blanket. "We can talk about treatment," Sarah interjected, her voice a steady beacon in the storm. "There are options to explore, and we can figure this out together as a family." Jake felt gratitude swell within him. Sarah had not only become his partner, but his anchor, reminding him of their shared determination to push through the darkest moments. "Yes, let us talk about it," he encouraged. "For once, I don't want to hide." his mother said. I don't want secrets or silence any longer. But I need to know that it's okay to be myself, whatever that is. Jake felt a warmth spread through his chest at her openness. Mom, we've been through so much. We'll figure it out together. You'll never be alone in this. Tears streamed freely down her cheeks now, and she reached for Jake's hand. I don't want to fight this illness alone, either. But there are so many things I regret, so many arguments and silence. Jake met her gaze and felt the familiar ache settle deep. Every family makes mistakes. Every family has scars. But those don't define us. What defines us is how we choose to come back, to connect. We still have time. A flicker of hope ignited in his mother's eyes. You're right. I need to start trusting again, even in myself. I can't let fear win. As they spoke, Jake began to feel the heaviness lift from his shoulders, even if just a fraction. They were still wading through uncharted waters, but this realization marked a shift, a newfound understanding of their bond. Just then, the door creaked open, and Jake's younger sister, Emily, peeked in. Her presence was a sudden breath of fresh air. Is it okay if I come in? She asked, a hint of uncertainty in her voice. Always, Jake replied, his heart expanding. The more voices added to the conversation, the heavier the tension felt lightened as they leaned into this together. Mom, I heard the news, and I just wanted to check on you. Emily stammered, taking a tentative step forward. Come here, sweet girl, their mother beckoned, her arms open wide, as if they could bridge the remaining distance. Emily rushed in, their family drawing together into a collective embrace. In that moment, the world outside faded, replaced by warmth and love. The power of their connection began to mend shattered bonds, igniting a flicker of resilience. As they stayed intertwined, the gravity of their situation lingered, but a quiet resolve blossomed amidst the tears. Jake looked to Sarah, whose gentle smile revealed shared strength in their union. And then, in the midst of this fragile moment, his mother added, let us not waste time on what-ifs. Let us make our time count. Together. Jake's heart surged, each beat echoing with hope. Then let us start today, he declared. But just as they embraced this new beginning, a shadow swept across his heart with an unsettling thought. Would it be enough? As they stumbled into their future, a whisper remained, would healing truly emerge from this fractured history, or would the past haunt them in ways yet to be uncovered? As Jake's mind wrestled with uncertainty, his mother's voice broke through the tension in the room. You're right, she said, wiping her tears. Let us focus on what's ahead. But how do we do that? Emily, still nestled under their mother's arm, looked up with wide eyes. Can we have a family picnic? Her innocence sparked a tiny flame of hope in the air. I love those. Jake smiled at Emily, the idea bouncing around in his head. That sounds perfect. A picnic would be a great way to spend time together. Their mother chuckled softly, the tension lifting slightly. It's been ages since we did that. Do we still have the old blanket? Yes. I'll dig it out from the garage. Jake stood up, the thought of a picnic invigorating a sense of normalcy amidst the chaos. As he headed toward the door, he turned back to his mother. You can pick the food. Anything you want. I'll make my special potato salad. She replied, a glimmer of her old spark illuminating her face. Jake felt relieved seeing his mother's spirit rekindle, even if just a touch. He looked at Sarah, who offered an encouraging smile, one that spoke volumes without the need for words. Who wants to help me pick snacks? Jake called out, urging Emily to join him. She bounded forward, eager to help, her laughter infectious. As they rummaged through the kitchen together, Emily picked a jar of pickles, holding it high. Can we bring these? Definitely, Jake said, laughing. Those are a must. The next hour was filled with chatter and laughter as they planned the picnic together, sharing stories and memories that made their hearts light. However, in a quiet corner of his mind, Jake couldn't shake the worry that hovered like a cloud. What if the joy they built today would only be swept away in the face of reality tomorrow? After they finished packing, Jake found Sarah sitting quietly at the table, her gaze distant. He pulled out a chair beside her. Hey, are you okay? He reached for her hand. Sarah looked at him, her eyes reflecting concern. I just wonder if this helps her today. What about tomorrow? Will we be strong enough for the bad days? Her question landed heavy in the air, making Jake pause. I don't know what tomorrow brings. I wish I could promise it would be easy, but I can't. What I do know is that today is ours. We're together. She nodded slowly, though the tension in her shoulders didn't dissipate entirely. Together, she whispered, almost as if affirming it would make it true. The family gathered their things and piled into the car, the anticipation of their impromptu picnic brightening the atmosphere inside. As they drove to the park, Jake made silly faces to entertain Emily, her giggles stringing together a moment of pure joy that swept away their worries, if only for a fleeting instant. Arriving at the park, the sweet smell of grass and flowers filled the air, reuniting them with nature that had always felt comforting the way they needed each other now more than ever. Soon, Jake set up the blanket as the sun warmed their backs. They spread their food out, and laughter rang against the backdrop of chirping birds. It felt like home. In this moment, they were a family, unshackled from fear, nourishing not only their bodies but each other's spirits. But as Jake glanced at his mother, joy blooming across her face, something primal tugged at his heart. The thought that this joy could be transient lingered, a whisper that reminded him to hold on to every single second. "Promise me we do this more often?" she said, her gaze moving from Emily to Jake. Jake nodded fervently. "Always." Yet as they settled back, the feeling of something not being quite right tugged at him. Just as the laughter subsided, a distant figure caught his eye across the park. Each heartbeat seemed to slow as he squinted into the sunlight. What if this moment was about to shift? Would anyone see the truth lurking beneath the surface? Would it change everything? The figure approached, gradually becoming clearer. A woman with familiar curls and a tentative smile. It was Karen, the neighbor from down the street, someone who had shared countless cups of coffee with Jake's mother in better days. Jake's heart raced. What was she doing here? Karen had been a lifeline for his mother, a friend through the toughest times, but he hadn't expected her to join this outing. "Karen," his mother said, her voice alight with surprise. What a lovely surprise. Karen's expression blended joy with a trace of concern. "I heard about your news, and I brought over some pies. I thought we could celebrate the good times while we're at it." "Pies?" Emily squealed, bouncing in her spot. "Yay." And in that instant, the atmosphere around the picnic blossomed even further. Jake felt the delicious tension ease, the warmth of human connection flowing freely underneath the azure sky. Karen's presence felt like a bridge to the world outside their family, reminding Jake of the intricate web of love that existed in his community. As they gathered around to share stories and laughter, Jake found himself reminiscing, sharing childhood tales he thought long forgotten, each memory foreshadowing a new chapter. Emily's eyes sparkled with wonder as he described the time their father tried to grill on the patio, leading to smoke alarms and laughter that echoed through the halls. It became a beacon, illuminating the path where grief had darkened their days. In between bites of delicious pie, Jake caught his mother's eye. There was a brightness there, one he hadn't seen in years. An understanding settled between them, an acknowledgement of change, of possibilities crawling in like the spring sunshine. They were weaving a new narrative, one that involved openness, warmth, and most importantly, love. "Jake," his mother said quietly, drawing him from his thoughts. "I know this isn't a magic fix, and the road ahead will be challenging." "No one said it had to be perfect," Jake replied. "But we're here. We'll take it one step at a time." "Together," Sarah added, squeezing Jake's hand, her support radiating warmth as she caught their shared gaze. "Exactly." His mother nodded, wiping away a tear. "Together." As the sun began its slow descent, casting a warm golden hue over the group, a sense of fulfillment wrapped around Jake. Each moment filled with laughter, connection, and even the occasional shared sorrow brought them closer to healing. But just as they settled back on the blanket, enjoying the last of the fading daylight, another surprise unfolded. A group of familiar faces appeared from the path, old friends of their father's. Faces he hadn't seen in years. Laughter followed them as they exchanged friendly jabs, their presence flooding the air with joy. Bill Thompson had touched many lives, and the community rallied around his family in this moment of togetherness, reinforcing the notion that love expands beyond the confines of a single relationship. Jake's heart swelled as laughter and stories filled the air. They shared tales of Bill's quirky humor, his steadfast spirit alike to a bright flame in their memories. Suddenly, the heaviness he had felt through all the earlier moments of worry began to dissipate, replaced by the nourishing energy of collective love. His mother spoke softly, her voice breaking through the noise. You see, love doesn't fade, it grows. And no matter what life throws at us, we are family. We are stronger together. In a chorus of agreement, the crowd echoed her sentiment. Joy rippled through them, brighter than ever, a reminder that the essence of love would guide them forward, through the trials they faced and the memories they cherished. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a resolute promise lingered in the air. No matter what the future held, they weren't just a family struggling under the weight of grief. They were a family ready to embrace change, to share laughter, and to find beauty amid the sadness, together. Jake felt a sense of peace wash over him, a silent resolve igniting deep within. They were taking this journey, step by step, ready to face the unknown, yet full of hope for all the tomorrows that would come. And with that hope, the past would no longer be a shackle, but rather a compass, a guiding light navigating them toward healing and love that would define their family for years to come. Hold on tight, because life is unpredictable. The strength found in family and community is the greatest power of all, an unwavering truth that transforms hearts and unites souls. And just like that, Jake opened his heart to the unknown, embracing what lay ahead with open arms. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support us. Comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. And for goodness sakes, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait, not even one more second to share. True fans understand how much these small actions mean.